Hey, this is Andrew Long from the Arizona Game Fair, and you are listening to Legends of Tabletop.
All right, how you
Hey,
doing?
I'm
How's
good.
Dave
Was
been?
that was that good enough? My radio days are way behind me.
No, that's cool. That's cool. We can we clean everything up in post.
There you go.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's a busy time of the year. I run a e-commerce business, and this is the crazy time of the year. And then I also, we're getting ready with Arizona Game Fair, and that is a fair bit of amount of work. So,
I
and
imagine
then
it's
holidays and all that kind of stuff too. So.
all right. So you're the owner and founder of the Arizona Game Fair. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we started it. The first one was in January. I always like to say last year, but it was actually this year that we started. The first one was in January. Um, we had 2 days, and it went so well that we decided to do another one. And so we're back in February, February 9th, 10th, and 11th. So, but I am the founder and the owner, and my accountant really hates me for it. So.
I didn't realize it last year or this year as we
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? It's like
yeah.
last year, but it was actually this year. So
Yeah, when I was at RinCon last year, I saw the stickers for it and everything, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but shit, it's all the way up in Mesa. Like, maybe next time we'll see what happens. But I did not realize it was the inaugural convention, or I would have made a more concerted effort to make it up there. How did last year go? Was it good?
yeah, it went really well. We did this thing to where we tried to keep it really simple, and just tried to put together what we thought was a good convention. We did a questionnaire afterwards and got some feedback, and a majority of the people really liked what we did, and had a good time. And like I said, that made us want to do it again, and keep going with it. So.
Now, when you started, did you reach out to anybody like Jason Youngblood or the folks doing the RenCon to sort of get any sort of information, feedback, like, hey, I'm trying to start a thing. What do you think? Like, what do you guys do? Or do you just like jump in feet first, like, screw it. I'm gonna do a convention in
Yeah,
January.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, what I did was I travel a lot and I go to a lot of other conventions, like a BGG Con, and I've actually been to Essen in Germany for the big gaming convention, and I've gone to my fair share of local, RinCon and Maricopa Con and Crit Hit and Phoenix Comic Con and all that type of stuff, and so I had a good sense of what the local scene was, and I consider most of the people who run all of those my friends, and so yeah, I had some conversation, but it really was just one of those things to where, like, why not? Let's do it. See how it. Now I really did have plans if people didn't like it, or if it wasn't where they, if they didn't come away from it saying, "Hey, let's do this again," I wouldn't do it again. I mean, it's one of those things to where that was the thing, is if people didn't like it, why do it?
Mhm.
And so and we made some changes along the way as we what the convention originally was going to be changed a bit as we started getting some feedback while we were doing it, and that some of that came from RinCon and some of that gaming community. The original premise was to just have open gaming.
Huh,
So I don't know if you're familiar with BGG Con, but it
I've
really
never.
is. Yeah, it's in Dallas. It's run by Board Game Geek, and it really is just a big room with tables, and they have an amazing library because they get all these games and they know about all the games, and so you just go check out games and you play them, and that's the kind of convention that I like. Um, that's what it was originally going to be. It was just going to be, we are just going to have an open gaming convention because nobody was doing that kind of thing. And what happened, it changed a bit as I got to, I was at RinCon before the game fair, and I've been talking to some people down there, and they explained to me scheduled gaming and
Mm.
why they liked scheduled gaming. And it started to make sense to me. Like, people like games, they want to learn games. They want to teach games. People want to actually teach other people the games that they like and they love. And so we quickly made a kind of an adjustment and added some scheduled gaming kind of towards the tail end of it. It didn't go very well because when you add stuff, but we did, and we've improved it for this next year. But that's somewhat of the, talking to the community and seeing, because my premise originally was just this open gaming convention. We were going to bring a big library, and you were going to be able to just game type of thing.
And there's nothing wrong with that for sure.
Well, it goes back to this thing to where, when people talk about gamers, and this is the biggest thing I've probably learned from doing this, they talk about gamers, but there are so many different kinds of gamers, and there are so many different kinds of people, and what they like in a convention and what they want to get out of it is completely different. And so, I could make a convention for myself, and it may not be as successful as if I make it for the community as a large. So, but that's the thing, is you start talking to, there's just runs the gambit of the types of games that they like to play, how they like to play them, when they like to play them, all kinds of stuff. So that's
Sure.
been the most interesting part. All these different kinds of kind of clusters of, and there's overlap, and there's all kinds of stuff. So
Right. Well, that's cool that you were at least able to try to incorporate some of those changes just by talking with people in the community, because and not necessarily any of the conventions in our area, but there is that element of somebody, I'm going to go do something, and it's like, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but this is what I want to do, and it's going to be really good, and you're going to like it, but I'm going to do it this way.
right.
So it's good to hear that you're obviously looking for feedback, and with the first year, I guess it makes a lot more sense too. Like, hey, how can we make this successful and enjoyable for everybody?
Right, and I think it was, and we had some missteps. It's just some of the stuff that you learn. We had a lot of RPG stuff to begin with, and everybody thought it was an RPG convention, but it wasn't. It actually was more of a board game convention than an RPG convention, because that was, the big room was going to be board games. And so, it was like, we had to try to convince people. I had the first year problem, which I
Yeah.
try to explain to people, is like, trying to get people to come to the convention, and then trying to get, publishers and people. It's like, who are you? And so, I got to that point where I was just like, we just need to do it. And it's going to be what it is. And, lots of conventions have started in people's, bedroom or their house and their living room, and have moved on to become, huge events. And so you just have to do it.
Right.
The problem that you get into is if you don't adjust, if you don't listen to what the community wants, it's not going to grow. And so we've been trying. I mean, that's my view of it is we're going to get things wrong. Even in February, we're going to do stuff that's wrong, or it's not going to go well, or it's going to. But what we'll do is, we'll ask you about it. We'll see where we went wrong, and we'll try to fix it. And that's somewhat what we're trying to do for February. We made a list of things that didn't go well. We patted ourselves on the back for the stuff that went well and people liked, and that was great. But now, now we're trying to fix some of the stuff and scheduled gaming was one of them, definitely.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, as much research as you could do into it, and as many cons as you've been to, you don't know what's going to break until you do it. It's like playing, it's like your first play of, Terraforming Mars or Through the Desert. Like, you could read the book and you can watch the videos, but you have to get it on the table and play it to see what works and what doesn't. And, how you interact with that. So
right, and the only bad part about that is it's much more expensive than a game of
sure.
Terraforming. So it's like it's a really expensive board game. So, but no, we did. It is that kind of thing. And we'll keep doing it as long as there has to be some sort of. It does cost money to run conventions, and
Sure.
so you have to factor that into what you're doing. But then you also, it's as long as it's what people want. If you can keep those two things going to where it makes enough money to keep going, and and people are happy with and they want to attend, then we'll keep doing it. I'm already working on the contract for 2019.
Nice.
And that's mostly because of that time of the year books up really fast, and you have to, you just have to move that far
Sure.
ahead in booking stuff. So.
Right, and it's nice because you're not competing with things like Gen Con and all that stuff. I mean, typically the con season is July to September, October. So to have something that falls sort of outside of that general time frame is nice. Gives people the opportunity to come out and experience it, and it's not 148 degrees out here.
Right, and that was so. Part of that was wanted my friends to come out to a convention. I was like, hey, come to Phoenix, and none of them wanted to come to Phoenix, during the summer, none of them. And so I started thinking about like, what is stopping us from having a convention during, our prime time, like our season. And some of that is money. Some of that is the competition for the spaces. So during the summer, you have less competition. And so, but I wanted a thing to where it's like, why can't the country come to us? So why can't the gaming industry come to Phoenix when it's really nice? And so that was one of the big premise behind our early in the year dates. That has been challenging because hotels, there's really no leverage until you hit a certain number because of, they want you to sell rooms.
Right.
And so they're not really interested in giving you a deal, or they just don't think that you're all that appealing, because some business can come in and buy out the whole hotel, and they're fine. They'll just wait for that versus
Sure.
Working with you to try to make a deal. And so there's some of that going on. These are like I said, the challenges. There's challenges for the summer too. But yeah, I mean there's all the national stuff that people are going to. And then, the convention scene has gotten pretty crowded also because, you have other conventions, there's RinCon and Crit Hit, Maricopa Con. There's obviously Phoenix Comic Con. And so that summer space is really kind of busy. And, that was one of it. Avoid the competition, but it was definitely something we were thinking about when we decided on the time of year that we were going to do stuff.
Sure. Now, you'd mentioned, some of the cons that we have in the area. I didn't realize, I looked after the fact. I think we have about 8 gaming conventions just here between, say Flagstaff and Tucson, which is amazing that we have that many awesome conventions. Why start another one?
That's a good question. It's I just think some of it was I didn't see the convention that I wanted to go to. I mean, this is the selfish part of it is I really enjoy open gaming and BGG, and so it wasn't that the other conventions are bad. I wouldn't, it's not that they're. I just didn't see that convention that I really. I think RinCon probably hits it the closest. They have a good open gaming. The Tucson gaming community is amazing. You have lots of designers. You have lots of. I mean, I have really good friends. I really enjoy coming to RinCon, meeting them and playing games with them. And a lot of them are coming up to Game Fair, and so there is a lot, And I think I was talking to somebody about this. It's I don't really see it as a competition so much. There's a little bit of that competition there, only in the sense that I've put money up to run the convention, and so I have to be protective of some of that. So there is that competition there, but I support. I'm friends with most of the game convention runners, and so it's that all ships, tide rises all the ships kind of thing, and it's very exciting to see the gaming community growing and doing some cool things.
Yeah, it is cool. Tucson is really good for games. I mean, we have quite a number of game stores. With being on the podcast, I typically buy my games at the store.
Right.
My store is Isle of Games. That's where I go. I just dropped $100 in there over the week over the weekend. You can get them cheaper online, but if you want to see those game stores survive, if you want to be able to participate in all those great meetups and all other stuff, you have to support locally. You've got to go to your stores. You got to go to your local conventions. Yeah, Gen Con's great. That's fun. There's a million people. go to Rincon or go to AZ Game Fair where maybe there's less than 1,000 people. And you see the same people all weekend. And it's just so great because you're like, oh, hey, how was that game you were going to play, blah, 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 so-and-so. And it's a really great sense of community. It's really cool.
Yeah. And so like, when you say it like that, like why another one? It's sometimes you have to stop and think of like, oh, maybe that, maybe you support the one there, but I don't know. It was just, and sometimes I just do things. I just do them. I just needed to do it,
Yeah.
And go. But I do try to maintain a relationship with the other convention. They're all welcome, and they know it. They're all welcome to come to the game fair and promote their stuff, and we try to work together on. So it's really kind of exciting what's been going on. The growth of the hobby is obviously lots of games coming out, lots of stuff coming out, and I think the conventions are somewhat a reflection of that. In Phoenix, our meetup groups are getting pretty big, and lots of people. Like every night, there's a place you can game just about every night somewhere in the valley. So
Sure.
And I know Tucson's a little bit like that too.
Right. So the gaming community there in Phoenix is pretty solid then too. Then.
It's the Phoenix suffers from this problem where I think we're just so spread out. There are gaming groups on every kind of part of the valley, and so I think what you have are these smaller pockets of gaming and gamers, and so some of that creates tribalism and just things inherent with people.
Sure.
And so it does suffer from some of that. But overall, I see growth and for the most part, people do come together. I know a lot of people from Phoenix who go down to Rincon and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it definitely is growing. The distance part is hard to solve, though. Or when you say like we've really tried to find a central location, which in February it's just hard to do because of the competition for spaces. They sell out really quick, and there's no real leverage and this kind of stuff. And so the Mesa Convention Center works for us, but we've had people say, oh, it's Mesa, I don't want to drive that far, and I totally understand. I mean,
right.
But we're not having it in Mesa just because we want to make you drive all the way across the valley. It really was one of those places that worked out, that we could do what we want to do, and it works. But I've spent a lot of time looking for locations, and we just can't do them at this point. But that's some of the problem. Is I just think the distance, and I think Tucson, to a sense, has that. But I think you guys are a little bit more compact, right?
Tucson itself's not real big, but like for me, I'm all the way down in Sarita. So for me to go up to Rincon, and I drove back and forth every day and every night, was an hour, 45 minutes to get over to the Sheridan. So it was not a ton of fun in that regard.
Sure.
But being all the way down here, you got to go where you got to go. So I mean, it's just. It's a function of the state, right? I mean, overall, the state's way spread out. You've got Tucson way down here. You've got Casa Grande, and then you've got Phoenix and Mesa, and all the rest of it up around that way. So we're kind of all over the place. But my goal for this year is try to hit all of the conventions this year coming up, which may be stupid, but declaration of intent. That's my plan.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, there's starting to be a lot of them. So, but yeah, no, they all have their thing, and they all have. I mean, everybody. I've been to a bunch of them, and everybody has fun. I mean, it's it's an enjoyable thing to go. So.
Well, you get to hang out and play games and make new friends. I mean, that's the perfect weekend.
Yeah, and I think that Rincon has been that thing. Where I really enjoy going and because I see this, the people that I enjoy hanging out with, and I do that. Like I said, I've gone to the Spiel, which is in Germany, for 3 or 4 years now, and it becomes the same thing. It's huge, but we always come back. A lot of us stay at the same hotel, and we all game in the evening, and we've become really good friends, and I meet people from all over the world, and it's part of that gaming. And you get those at any of the conventions, around town, no matter how big they are. People can feel that at Phoenix Comic Con, which is huge, to some Maricopa Con or Crit Hit or I have not been to Game On, which is it's been around a few years, but it's a video game board game. But I've heard of people, but like I said, you get that same hanging out camaraderie type of thing. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. What sort of programming can we expect this year at the con?
This year we've doubled in space. So last year we had one of the small. It's called the A building. The ABC is how they describe their buildings, but it's a smaller building. We've doubled spaces. We've added the A and B building. The RPG room is going to be about the same size. Open gaming is going to be a little bit bigger. We've added a larger scheduled gaming section. One of our difficulties is going to be we're going to be in two different buildings that are a little bit apart from each other. It just happened to be the only way we could pull it off this year. But you're going to still get the same thing. It's the big focus is going to be the library. We're going to bring 600 plus games to the library. We've been buying new games to add, the newer games to add to the library. So we have some of the newer, hotter games. That's going to be the central, focus of the convention is this big library with open gaming. And what we find with that is people bring their own games also, because it's just a place for them to all get together and play the games that they brought. But if you want to check out, you can use your badge to check out any of the games. So that's kind of the thing. Like I said, the RPG room is unfortunately the same size this year. We were a little limited in that, but we see growth in that. The tables filled up sooner. We're going to have some RPG events around. We also have a theater, so we're going to be doing panels. Cool. There's a 100-seat theater that's attached to the convention center that when they first told me that that's part of that building, I was like, well, can you take the seats out so we can game in it? Because I was like, what are we going to do with this theater? And so, but they were like, no, they're set in there. And okay, so we had to figure out some stuff to do. And some of that is we're going to do panels, and then we have some featured events that are going on. One is we're bringing Paul Dean from Shut Up and Sit Down out. He is traveling through the U.S. and he's going to swing in, and so Friday night we're going to have he's going to give a feature presentation, and then we're going to have a meet and greet with him on Friday, and then we're going to do on Saturday. We're working on a live RPG event. So we got some of the local RPG people. I'm being a little vague on this because we're still some of it's still coming together. But essentially what's going to happen is they're going to do a live hour-long RPG. The RPG is going to be Dungeon World, and so people can watch that and so that's going to be our Saturday night thing. Scheduled gaming is going to be bigger and better. We're going to do the digital signups like RenCon does. So we're going to have a better. Last year it was a little thrown together, as you would say, but this year we're being a little bit more with the digital signups and that kind of stuff. We're doing some tournaments. The big one is the Catan tournament. So we are a qualifier for the National Catan tournament, and the way that this works is that you come, you have to participate in a preliminary where you play 3 games of Catan. Each of the preliminaries are then ranked, and the top 16 players then play for a semifinal. And then the top 4 out of that play in a final. And then the winner gets an all-expense-paid trip to Origins.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we're going to fly them out to Origins, where they will play another tournament. And the winner of that will become the U.S. National champion for Catan, and then they will go on to Germany and play in the thing. So it's a really good deal. But yeah, it's hotel. It's I think they're taking them out for dinner. It's food, it's and plane ticket. So the cost for that's going to be $10. And so we're going to run preliminaries Friday and Saturday, and then we're going to have the final and the semifinal and final on Sunday. Some of this is might change. We're nailing down the schedules is pretty much what we've been doing now. We've got we try to bring lots of guests and designers and those kind of stuff. So we have some of that coming on. We'll be posting that. I'm trying to think of what else we got going on. I should have made a list.
Sounds like a ton.
Yeah, it's. I fear that we've gone. This is one of my fears, is that we went from being really simple and we're able to pull it off to. We added a lot of complexity this year, and so it's really been trying to nail that down and make sure that the goal is to do the things as well as we can. And some of that strategy was, to keep things simple. But these are the things that we think people want to add to the experience. I just remembered one more thing. We're going to have an escape room.
Oh, I think I saw that on Twitter today.
Yeah, there is a local company that's going to run an escape room. It's going to be a little shorter than your normal escape room's about an hour. These are going to be like half-hour things, and so they're going to run that at the game fair for people to run, do the escape room thing, which is really fun. Cool. We have a vendor hall, like most. We one of the goals of the game fair was to bring the industry to us. And some of that is going to be trying to bring, these game companies who go to Gen Con and all that, to try to bring them to Arizona. We have to get big enough to do that. And so the vendor hall is bigger this year. It's a good chunk of it is going to be retailers, game stores. Isle of Games is going to be there.
Are they really?
Yeah. They came for the first year, which I convinced them to come up, I really enjoy the Drew and it's a good time.
Cool. I didn't realize they were coming up. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then we have some tables in our open gaming area for. We have, I think he's 14. We have a game designer who published a game, and his mom helped him get a table, and he's going to be demoing and selling his game. So we have like lots of cool stuff like that. Some of the other conventions are going to have tables, and so yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and I think it's trying to see what works and what doesn't again. And to try to make sure that we pull them off. I think that's the biggest problem with some of that stuff, is that just keeping the quality up, because you have so much stuff going on. So
there's a lot of logistics that people aren't, they're not exposed to that. They just pay their money, they get their badge, they go in, they want to play games. It's like, well, where's the food, or where's the, it's only when something kind of goes amiss where people are like, oh, well, what happened here? When everything's running smooth, you don't get any credit for that.
Right. Yeah, like I said, we quickly moved on from the stuff like, okay, we did that well. Let's talk about the stuff that we didn't do well. Some of that was like concessions. We didn't have it long enough, and so concessions are gonna be open the whole time. Some of this was me hedging my bet, because you have to pay for some stuff, and so it's trying to make it not be as expensive as it could possibly be. So that was some of the stuff that we did last year. Was that we have some hurdles this year. The biggest is the two buildings. They're a little bit of a walking distance, but one building is going to really have its registration and the vendor hall and scheduled gaming and the theater, and then the other building is going to be all the open gaming. And the library is there, which is going to feel much like it did last year, because that's what it was last year.
Right.
And then we should have the bigger building. I'm working on a contract now. We should have the bigger building next year, which will help put it all in one spot. So
Right. Right.
that's the biggest thing that we're hoping to do, is to bring that back together.
Right. Yeah, Necronomicon is like that too out in Providence. They have most of the events run in two separate hotels. So you gotta, if you're trying to catch one panel from another, like I try to record a bunch of stuff and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna make the run down the road to get that one. We'll just
Right.
skip it and we'll get to the next one.
Yeah, and we're signage. We didn't do signage very well last year, so we're gonna try to get better signs out, and we're gonna have late night gaming this year. That's one of the things that people wanted is the unfortunately with the convention center is uh, uh, the original idea was to have 24-hour gaming, to just let people game Friday and Saturday nights just all the way through.
Right.
And unfortunately, the convention center just doesn't work that way.
Mm.
They won't even entertain that possibility. And
Okay.
so, or maybe if you had enough money, maybe they would. I don't know. But anyways, I got a flat no on that. And so, we had a small group who really wanted to game later. And I know some of that went on at the hotel because the Marriott is right by it. But we've arranged some late night gaming with a restaurant that's behind the convention center, and they have a kind of a banquet hall. It's not huge, but and so we're going to work with them and provide a place for people to go, till 2 a.m.
Nice.
And then the hotel has been very friendly about. I said, there might be people. Are you okay with people gaming, in the hotel? And they're pretty much okay with, there's areas around the hotel that you can uh, play. And we've worked with the hotel, whereas, and this is going to end pretty soon, but in January, where if you book a room at the hotel, you get a free badge. And some of that is just that, February hotel rates are crazy. Then there's nothing really. I mean, the best rate we could get was like 149 a night.
I didn't
And
think that was terrible.
no, but yeah, it's like, but for some people, um, that's a lot of money. And so
Yeah.
one way that we wanted to help out with that is like, if you're going to spend $150 on a hotel room and come to our convention, we'll comp you a badge, um,
Right.
to help defray some of that. So that's worked out well. And it's some people really have appreciated that. It makes it easier for them to attend and to, and a lot of people who get the hotels are the people who game from 8 a.m. till 4 in the morning, and then get up at 8 a.m. and do it again. So
Yep. Oh, that's the best part of the convention.
yeah, I'm not. Excuse me. I can't do that anymore. I have to hit a schedule, and I'm just no. I can't function very well. We do open early. It's one of the things that I said. I pay, uh, for that space, and so it's we open at 8 a.m. And last year we had people there at 8 a.m. starting 18xx games
Wow.
because they knew they were going to be kind of an all day thing, and so we really did have people coming and gaming, and so we'll continue to do that again this year. So
Yeah, I saw that early on Friday. I was like, shit, I don't think I could get there at 8 o'clock. I had to drop the kid off at school before I make my way up. It's like 2 hours to come up.
yeah, and then we're doing a flea market on Saturday. Um, you can buy the tables when you register. They're like they're $10. That's not a lot. And then we'll have a math trade. The same person who sets up the math trade for RinCon is doing the math trade for us, and so that'll be a cool. So that's always a fun thing. People can buy, sell, trade, and then get the games that they're looking for, that they're trying to get rid of. So
Yeah, that's definitely cool. So if you get the hotel, you count the badge. What's a badge cost for the weekend? Like $40?
yeah, so early bird pricing right now is $40 for a full badge. Excuse me. $20 for a day badge, and then we have a $5 sidekicks are $5, um, and then we have a librarian patron, a library patron badge, and essentially what that is, it's a $75 badge. It's for the whole weekend, but all of the money goes to buying games for our library. So
Oh, cool.
the entire amount goes to the library to help buy new games. And then we're going to add them as like they get preferential treatment on like getting into stuff, and we're going to put their names on the you know on the in the library type of thing. But yeah, early bird pricing is going to end January 1st. Prices are going to go up about $5, and then you can still buy day of, but the pricing will be, it'll be more expensive to buy.
Sure.
But we do have one of the things we changed was that you could buy at the event. I originally wanted it to be all. My original idea was that you would just everybody would buy ahead at a time, and that was a really dumb thing because I should just open it up. So
it makes it easier to plan, though, right? I mean, then you have a really good idea of who's coming, what kind of services you need.
One of my biggest concerns is that if you're coming to an open gaming convention for open tables and you can't get a table, then it's that is a bad experience for people. And so that was one of the concerns. But I think we're ahead of we did okay. Saturday last year was Saturday kind of, the key time for gaming was where we had the most people. So I think we'll be good. We should be good this year. But, I'll just deal with it. Because people do, a lot of people are last minute people, and that's, it's totally fine. And it just makes it easy for people to swing by if they want to, and, buy a day pass. And I mean, we had people who bought a day pass and then came back the next day. They had so much fun. They're like, I should have bought a full badge, but I'm back. Like, that's cool. So.
Oh, that's cool. You got a convert there then.
Yeah. So.
Are you guys doing any sort of unpub events? I know you said you had the 14-year-old designer coming in. Is there any? I know they do a lot of that stuff in Tucson. I'm assuming they do it up there in Phoenix as well, where you kind of bring designers in and they have stuff that they're working on.
We had talked about doing some stuff, but I think we're gonna table it this year. We were planning an unpub this April, and unfortunately we had to cancel it because of a scheduling thing. But the Arizona Game Fair meetup runs a monthly design, Phoenix Game Makers Guild, and I run a game parts company, so we really do want to add some of that kind of stuff to the convention. Unfortunately, it got to be one of those deals to where it's like, at some point we had to draw the line this year, I think, just so that we can pull off some of the stuff that we were going to do. But yes, definitely next year there will be some sort of design challenge or design. I don't know if it'll necessarily be an unpub, but we'll see. There are two types of design things. One is the unpub is kind of like, hey, my design is finished and I'm ready to test it. And so you want to bring the play testers, and so that kind of works out well. The other is, that idea of getting designers together so they can help each other get their designs better. And so, those are some options that, but yeah, Tucson's been doing the unpubs and they've been doing great. So we'll have to see. We had talked about it, but I think we're going to table it for this year.
Sure. It sounds like you guys got a ton of stuff going on, so I mean that's fair.
Yeah, I think there were some other ideas that we had. I think that's at some point you just have to like focus in on. That's my biggest worry. That's my biggest worry with this year coming up is that we've planned a lot of stuff, and I know some of it's not going to go well. It's for probably for stuff out of my control or stuff I didn't know about or that we didn't think about so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's the part of conventions that is all the work, is trying to organize and thinking about what could go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, we needed signs here, okay, we'll remember to put signs there next year.
Right.
It's just trying to figure some of that stuff out. So
Now, if people are interested, are you taking volunteers to come in and help out? Is there any sort of like, hey, I need you up like a week before so we can kind of tell
yeah,
you what we need you to do? Or
we had amazing volunteers last year. We could not have done it without the people who. So what we do is we have a volunteer form. If you go on the website, ArizonaGameFair.com, there's a big yellow button at the top that says attend. And underneath that are registration and the volunteer form. And essentially all we ask is that people, they fill out the form. And we have a lot coming back from last year. So they had a good time. And volunteers get a full badge for the weekend. And this year we're doing T-shirts. So if you're a volunteer, you're gonna get a Arizona Game Fair T-shirt to wear during the convention, so that we can tell who are the volunteers. And we have a volunteer coordinator, Melissa, and she basically organizes them into what they want to do and what we think they'll be good at. And then we separate them into groups, and then like a week before we'll bring them in and we'll have here's what we're doing, and we'll feed them nachos. I think last year we fed them nachos and so that kind of thing. And then but yeah, the volunteers I was really impressed with the people that and they had such a good time. And it was because it can be kind of some of the stuff you're standing there and there's nobody around, there's nobody doing stuff, and it's kind of boring. But it all worked out. They were all good sports about everything, and I think we did good on that end. So a lot of them are coming back. So that's kind of, and 600 games, unloading 600 plus games and putting them on shelves is always, much fun.
right. Now, how does that work for volunteers? Do they work like a 6-hour shift, an 8-hour shift? How does that?
Yeah, they just work a shift. We just call it a shift. I don't know the exact, because Melissa's amazing. She just does all that stuff and sets it all up. But yeah, they work what we call a shift, and then a shift just gets you a badge. So, but I'm not sure. I'll have to double check with her. But I'm not sure if it's 6 or 8 hours. And then that's their contribution. It's kind of that barter. They get a badge for doing that. So
Okay, and people can volunteer to teach games and run RPGs and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's available on the website now to register for that.
Yeah, they're under that attend button, the big yellow button. The game submissions are open till January 1st. And on the one form you can submit for board games, RPGs, or panels. So if somebody wants to do a panel, or even podcasters, if somebody wants to use the theater to do it, yeah, there you go. Just go in there and put a submission for a panel, and that's basically what that theater is for, is to provide that opportunity for people, or if they want to talk about something. I mean, and then we're filling in with some stuff that we want to run. So the game review panel is going to be really pretty good. I mean, we've got Paul Dean and Dan King. Dan King is the Game Boy Geek, is going to be there, and so we're going to have a panel. Dan is actually he's going to find the top 10 games you should play out of the Arizona Game Fair library, and he's going to do a thing on these. Hey, these are the top 10, and here's why I think they're the top 10. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, and then game masters get you do a certain number of games and you get a badge for the weekend. It's pretty typical convention stuff, but yeah, board games and I've heard that the RPG room isn't completely full, but I know a lot of people wait till the last minute. So it's just the nature of. Last year I panicked a lot, but then I just realized that everybody's not like I try not to be last minute, but that's but yeah, a lot of people are just they wait, and that's it's just as long as you know that that's coming, it's fine. But when you think like, hey, we don't have anybody submitting anything, you're like, this isn't good. But then, oh, they just waited till the last minute, and so. But yeah, that form is, and you can teach and do as many games as you want. And then the open gaming is great for. I suggest people do what they do like at BGG is you take the box top of the game that you want to play, and you just walk around, and we'll have a sign that says players wanted and teacher wanted. And then you can carry that sign. This is what they do. They carry that sign in the box top, and they are looking for players for that game. And then they just kind of walk around until they get the players that they need.
Cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's and then this year we're going to have more people walking around the open gaming, volunteers to try to help facilitate some of that for people looking for games. Because it is kind of a different model for some people, whether they're shy or it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a lot of people in a big room, and it's kind of intimidating, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't played a lot of games. I mean, games nowadays, you can just look at them, and I mean, you just open the box and you can cringe.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much, so much in the box. Gloomhaven and some of those ones where you're just like very intimidating stuff. So.
We get that where we play a lot of games at work during lunch, and people invariably come in and are like, what is that mess? You've got cards over here, and you've got those things over there. I can't even figure out what you're doing. I'm like, it's not really that hard. You get into it a couple of times. It's, it's fairly simple, but to look at it, it's like, oh my God.
Right. And we have a librarian. Sharon is working on really trying to put together some advice for people and to help. Her work right now is to really kind of look at our library and see where she could point people and help them either discover games or, the library is more than just checking out games. We're trying to put the volunteers in there that know the most about games, and so that they can help you pick games. And that's with like Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, helping kind of pointing out like, here are some, we can't have all the games.
Right.
We're trying to work on the library and bring in newer and better games, but we can't do it all. So I think the big part of the library is providing that service to help you, to help you find the game, and then maybe even find people to play with. On Board Game Geek, they're doing a geek list to organize games. There's an unofficial Arizona Game Fair geek list coordination thing if you're on BGG, and so it's basically people saying, I want to play this game at this time, and you can just go in and sign up. So there's a lot of that stuff going on.
Cool.
So
Well, that's cool. And with as many designers as we have here too, I ran into David Short over at Isle of Games, and we, just started talking. Because not every game is for every person, and if you don't know what you like, maybe, and we just had like an hour-long conversation. Like, well, do you like this game? Okay, cool. Then you'll like this game, and then this game is kind of like that one. But if you don't like this, then forget all these games over here.
Right. And David's coming. He was great last year. He knows a lot of games too, and so he's really good at teaching, and so yeah, it's just one of those. But yeah, it really can be kind of an intimidating thing for some people, and I think that's, like I said, that's why I changed on the scheduled gaming. I mean, it was really going to be an open gaming convention. I wasn't going to have any scheduled gaming, and then people talked to me about it, and I understand why. I mean, there are people who sit down. I think Comic-Con's a little bit this way too, where they sit down and they plan their weekend, and they schedule it out and they know what they want to do. And I think what came from that is I'm not that person. I'll walk around and do whatever. I have never scheduled anything at a convention. I just kind of go, and then I let what happens. But then I realized that people really, that's the fun of it for them. Is that I'm going to play this game that I've been wanting to play for a long time. I'm going to play that at 2, and so it gives them that thing to look forward to and to kind of organize stuff, and so that's what we're trying to provide, and hopefully that'll get better and better. each year. So
Yeah, that was my RinCon this past year. I was scheduled from noon on Friday all the way through to Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening.
Mhm.
And sometimes it was like I have 10 minutes, so I have enough time to run to the bathroom and then get to the next game.
Well, like I said, it's games that don't get to the table that often. I know my friend John was playing Twilight Imperium for all day. At Game Fair last year, people were playing 18xx games, and we are going to put some bigger tables for those people who want to play those big long games. And but yeah, it's just an interesting. And then, like I said, there are people who um, they are content to sit there. They don't get a game out of the library. They bring all their own games. They have set up, they know the people that they want to play the games with, and they're just good to have there. They'll go to lunch. They'll come back. They have their bag. Somebody had a little red wagon full of games. It was interesting to see at Game Fair because we had the big open gaming area, and then all along the walls was where everybody stacked all their games.
Tubs, yeah.
And so I would say that there might have been even more games stacked along the wall than there were like in the library, which is really cool. And some of the it was all the hot new games because there are those gamers who are, they have the latest thing and they want to play it. And so, yeah, it's really cool to see. It's a fun time. So.
Yeah, I submitted to teach Shogun. I picked it up at RinCon this year, and it's like you need a minimum of 3, and a lot of times I game with 2. So I'm like, I'm going to teach it because I'm going to play that freaking game when I come to the convention.
Yeah, and I think that's I've encouraged people to get those games that you don't see very often, or that they know how to teach, or that they have a copy of. There's some games that are kind of hard to get a hold of, and it's cool to see people put that stuff in so that you actually get a chance to play it. And then we'll have we also have the demo teams. Like Men in Black will be there running all the Steve Jackson games, and there are small designers who will have stuff demoing, and hopefully, a lot of the game designers. I know Seth Jaffe was there last year. They bring their prototypes and play them, and it's just kind of all kinds of stuff getting played. The one growth area we're looking at is miniatures. I think that's going to be next year. We're going to try to do some stuff with that because they're just space. The space that they take up is quite a bit, and the kind of coordinating all of the terrain. I'm not a miniatures player, but we have a store down here called Games U. And man, I look at that terrain and it's so amazing. Just the stuff that I watched some people play 40K, and it's just kind of really cool kind of stuff that I'd like to see at Game Fair. So hopefully we will not stop miniatures people from setting up and playing because that's what open gaming is all about. But we hope to provide them with some stuff for next year. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
When will we see a finalized schedule so people can start to plan out their weekend for gaming?
Yeah, it's going to be mid-January. We're going to close submissions January 1st, and then I suspect we'll leave it. I suspect we'll go a little bit longer after January 1st, but you didn't hear it from me. Just because it's January 1st, but yeah, we'll have the schedule. Our goal is to really have the schedule up early enough so that people have time to get the games that they want. We're like all conventions. We're trying to deal with this digital sign up versus people who show up at the convention, making sure that not everything's full up, and that people can who show up day of can get into some stuff. So we're trying to look at how to handle that. I think RinCon does that pretty well. They've always done game signups pretty well.
And you could always get like the alternate. So like usually there's a book, with players listed, and then you can be like first alternate, second alternate if somebody doesn't show up.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the part where just nailing down the process. But no, our goal is to have it. It's not going to be last minute. It's really going to try to have it at least a good chunk of it set up for them, and then have some of it, we might even just have tables that you can only sign up for, at the fair, type of stuff. So we'll see. Some of that stuff still, I call it the after January stuff. There was all the before January stuff on the list, and I'm pretty close to getting that stuff done. But there's the after January that I start worrying about. The badges are going to be pretty cool. Eagle Griffin Games is going to be a lanyard sponsor, so we're working on some lanyards for them. There's just some cool stuff coming, and then we have T-shirts. So we have you can buy a T-shirt, you can pre-order a T-shirts. That's going to get shut down because what we're doing is we're in an effort not to get stuck with a bunch of Game Fair T-shirts that nobody wanted. We did pre-order. So what you do is when you buy your badge, you can pre-order a T-shirt, and then you pick it up at the convention. And so that's gone really well. And then, like I said, the volunteers will have, I believe it's going to be like a bluish T-shirt, so you'll be able to see who's a volunteer. So those are the kind of things that I think make a convention cool. On my end of it,
Right.
so you can tell who the volunteers are, and it's just some of the experience stuff. So those are the things I enjoy. But yeah, a lot of the after January stuff is the scheduling of the most of the table stuff has been set up and ready to go on that end, but it's just filling in the details.
Cool. Do you have any favorite games yourself? Any favorite board games you like to get to the table?
I'm a Euro gamer, and so I like a good themeless solitaire game, as people say. So yeah, I'm on the Euro end. We've been. My favorite game is Cacao. I would have to say. I have a hard time with the what's your favorite game, because it's always kind of changing.
Sure.
But we've been playing. I brought back some expansions and stuff, and so we've been playing a bit of Cacao. But those are the kind of games that I like. I do like a good like Dominant Species is one of that doesn't get to the table as much as it can, but I like a good. It's just the thing that does it for me. That's kind of my story of gaming. Was when I was younger, I was into Dungeons and Dragons, and then I kind of got away from that. As you get into high school and college, and I pretty much stopped gaming. My family wasn't big board gamers. I mean, we weren't even card games. We had like like the base stuff, Monopoly. We had the
cheesy
games. Yeah. But we weren't. It's like I talked to a lot of people who were like, yeah, my family played cards all the time. We were always playing games. That wasn't really my family. We had games, but we weren't kind of like. But I did play a lot of D&D when I was younger, and then I don't know, when I was about 40, my wife and I bought a new house, and we were moving, and I found all my old D&D books. And it was like, I want to do this again, because it was like role playing is so much not about the computer. Like my whole life had become the computer. Like I would go to work, be on the computer. If I'm not on the computer, I'm on social media. It's like it just became this computer thing.
Yeah.
And so we started playing RPGs, and then in between we would play board games. When somebody didn't show up, or people would just say, "Hey, I got this new game, let's play it." And I was like, "Wow, these games are so much better. Like they're amazing, and they give me a feel, an endorphin when I play them." But quickly I tried to play all the games, and I found that all the games don't do that. Like Magic, I was talking to somebody today about Magic the Gathering. I really understand why Magic the Gathering is such a great game, and I understand why people like it. But I don't like card games where you have to do the, it's a kind of like you're putting a card with a card, and it's the text, and that just for me doesn't give me that feel, and so I don't enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, why would I put that on to you, right? Like why would I play that game with you? Because then you're not going to enjoy it because I'm. So a lot of the Ameritrash and that kind of stuff. Magic the Gathering based games, or that came from that kind of card game thing. Um, I don't enjoy as much. And dexterity games, I just don't enjoy them. But that Euro is that kind of that sweet spot of like Power Grid and I mean even Ticket to Ride or some of the simpler like Cacao's a very medium weight. It's not hard to teach, but once you get into it, it's got a bit of a strategy to it, and that's kind of what I like and what I enjoy. So that's kind of been my background. Um, but I enjoyed, like lots of friends that I have are Omni gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Who really enjoy playing all kinds of games. Like they just like a bunch of different types, and I find that I'm not that. I appreciate games. Then here's the difference: is like I appreciate, or I can appreciate why it's a good game. Like I watch people play, Warhammer, and watching them play, I understand why they like it. I understand what they're doing and what it does to them, but I don't know that I could take the tape measure and
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
That's not really my. I mean, if we're gonna do miniatures like that, like we're playing D&D or we're doing
yeah,
something
yeah,
here, it's not just about rolling the dice and
sure,
that roll enough to hit that thing. I'd say I'm probably more of an Omni gamer. Like I'm all over the board. I love Splendor. I mean, we play the hell out of it. But like Samurai or Lanterns. Lotus gets a lot of play anymore. I mean, I'm
sure,
just all over the board, and
right.
I'm relatively new to board gaming. Like I grew up the same way. We had Monopoly, we had Parcheesi. Um, maybe we played. What the hell's that thing with the cars? I can't. It's a French card game. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, Millie Bourne.
Boards, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
We would play that. My ex-wife and I, we used to play a lot of rummy and card games and things when we were younger, dominoes stuff. But yeah, since starting the podcast, I've gotten more and more into gaming. Like you see, it is like an endorphin rush. Like especially in a two-player game, it's like I'm gonna figure out a way, and I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna win. And like maybe that's a character defect because I love it so much.
Yeah, no, it's hard to explain to some people, but like I said, and that's how I explain different games. Like that game, like I did play Magic, and that's the difference. I did play Magic the Gathering. I kind of knew up front that I wasn't going to enjoy it, but I did play it, and I didn't enjoy it. But it's like I could really understand why they like that. It's just not my. I do enjoy going to the game meetups though, and I'll play a game. There are a few games that I'll like have not played and say no, I won't play that. Like if I know a game right off the bat is not going to do, if I could just look at it and kind of tell that it's not going to do it, I'll sometimes say no. But oftentimes, like when you go to the meetup groups and stuff, and that's a cool thing is people just introduce you to stuff you like. I would have not known that I'd like that game, so that's cool. And so you have to be somewhat open to it. But the favorite game question always comes up, and I don't know that I have like one. It's usually whatever we're playing. Like we've been playing Queen Domino. We played that today, and King Domino. I enjoy that. Um, they're a little bit different, but they have the. So yeah, and Catan, I was never a. I played it a couple of times, but because I came into the hobby late too. I
Mhm.
think Catan, there was already games that were better than Catan because Catan's been around for quite a while. There were already games that I was like, wait, that gives me more like Kraftwagen or some of these Euro games that are, just uh, Energy Empire, the Manhattan Project. These worker placement games that I just enjoy more
Mhm.
than than Catan. Not that Catan's a bad game, but it's just like I just don't need to go back to it because these games have kind of moved on from some of that stuff. So Glenmore and some of those kind of games. So
Well, sure. Catan's kind of like the granddaddy of this crossover between the Euro and the Ameritrash, and like, oh, we have
yeah,
this new thing here, let's do that. But like you say, it's been what 20 some years now.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And then our big thing is really trying to, for the library, I mean, we're really working on trying to create a sustainable way to like put together a really good library. I think that's for people who go to BGG Con, they have just an incredible library. And I've heard Dice Tower Con has an incredible library. I think like Geekway to the West, I have not seen it, but I'm pretty sure they have just these really good libraries where people can come and play a lot of the games that they may not have had or that they want to try, or that a lot of BGG, since I don't, it was like just standing in the library with my friends, and we would just pick up a game and go teach it to ourselves too, which is a lot of times you don't do, because it's like you're going to spend an hour or so reading the rules and teaching yourself the game just to play a 2-hour game, and then but there's a lot of that goes on.
Right.
But it's expensive, and I feel bad. There are so many conventions out there, and we could ask publishers, hey, send us free games, but this is how they make a living too. And so we're trying to figure out a way to where, we can buy the games from them and support them, and support the library is kind of a big project of mine. It's just not all about, it's like free games is hard.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask a publisher for free games, sure, there's a lot of them that will send them to you, but it's like get a better deal if we try to figure out a way to give them some money for what they do. So, I mean, I know they're promoting the games, so.
Right. It's all about the community. I mean, we get the same thing. We'll get games for review occasionally for the podcast, and then a lot of times I'll go out and I'll back those Kickstarters. It's like, oh, it's cool. I got a free thing, but like you say, these are people who are doing this, and they're either making a living, or they're maybe transitioning into like, oh, I'm going to give up my day job because I want to design games for a living,
right?
Or it's more than a hobby. And I feel like, yeah, if you're gonna, and there's some exchange, right? So you get a free game and they play it at the con, you're supporting in your advertising, and it's sort of the same thing on the podcast. But it's like, yeah, there's that, but I want to financially want to help
Well,
do
yeah, and then there's just this difference between, there are games that are definitely need to be the publisher needs to send out to get them played so that people know about them, but then there are games that are just hot, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't need, and then there's few of them around. And so our view of it, the view that we're going to try to take is to just try to acquire those games however we can. And some of that might be just buying them, and trying to make sure that's in the library, and people have an opportunity to play maybe a game from Europe that they couldn't get, or some Kickstarter that was impossible to get, but somebody has a copy. And those are the things that I think add to the experience, or add some value, right? Like I'm asking you to pay money to come to a place and play games with your friends. This is basically, I'm throwing a big party. But if I'm throwing a big party, I should bring the beer, right? Like I should bring something nice to have you there. So I mean, that's part of our philosophy of stuff. But I think I see from other conventions, that's what works.
And those smaller conventions, and we've talked about it on the show before with with other people, because I try to get to conventions as often as I can, and those smaller ones are just always so much better. Gen Con is Gen Con and PAX is PAX, but to hang out with the same 500, 400 people, less than 1,000 people, like that, it's a great time. And the designers that come, and they're very accessible, and you can ask questions and play games with them, and and some, like a convention like that may be the only opportunity that some people have to interact with, Seth Jaffe or David Short. So like, to have that smaller head count, which maybe is not great for your bottom dollar, but is great as a convention goer, because there is a much more sense of community involved than, Gen Con.
Yeah. And I think, I've talked to Jason from Maricopa Con, and, his view of it is he's, it's, I think he's trying to create that experience. That's that it's a reasonable size. It's you're gonna have a great time, and you're gonna do what you do. I think Jim Miller at Crit Hit is doing the same thing. I think that our goal is not to be the biggest convention out there. I mean, that's not. I agree with you. You get to that point to where it's that kind of thing. I think we want to get to a point to where we can leverage some stuff to get better locations and to get better for the gamer. 24-hour gaming and some of that only comes when you can get to that SaltCon or those regional type of conventions where you can provide some of that stuff. But yeah, it goes back to those different kind of gamers too. I know a lot of people who don't like the small cons. They don't, they're or maybe not. That's hard. That's harsh. Not that they don't like. It's not that they like bigger cons. I think there's just some part of that it provides to them, but that's just different gamers, right?
Right.
I think I talk to a lot of different communities, and they like a lot of different things, and so. But you do have to be somewhat generic in that sense of if you're going to get to that somewhat of that level of a regional type of thing, you have to address some of that. And then some people aren't going to like, there are people who aren't going to like Arizona Game Fair. I totally get that. It's fine. I had this conversation with somebody. I was the first convention I was trying to get people to comment. So I was going to all these events, and I talked to this person. I sat down, I talked to them, and I was like, "Yeah, we're throwing this gaming convention. We're gonna have this library of games, and you can come and you can play, and it's it was like $30. It was $30 for 2 days. It's $30." And she just looked at me. She says, "Why would I pay $30 to come play games when I can come to this meetup and play games for free?" And I was like, "You have a very good point there." And it's like it was not. He was not ever going to come to even to other conventions. She was very happy showing up and playing at a meetup where she wasn't paying for anything, and people were bringing games, and so she was happy. And there were meetups that happened during Game Fair where people they were at a meetup somewhere playing games where it's like my expectation isn't that, or my goals aren't that. My goals are not I'm going to be the biggest, and we're gonna. That's not necessarily. There is some ramp up coming like that I'm trying to do so that I can avoid some of to get to that level of some of it's just leverage with the locations. And this is Kickstarter's been great. I think when we talked about the proliferation of cons are everywhere now because they're doing Kickstarter for them, and so it's like games too. So Kickstarter makes it. It cuts out that risk. It cuts out a lot of stuff. I mean, there's some advantages and disadvantages to it, right? Like, and how you run your Kickstarter and how it's that kind of stuff. But, that's Crit Hit and Maricopa Con. Both are under that. Guys, they're telling people like, if we don't get this number of people, this thing's not going to happen. And so, if you want it, you want to support it, you have to do it now. And this is. My thing was a little different. It was just like, let's do it. If it doesn't work, well, Andrew did a dumb thing, right? But if it did well, then they're just different models of doing it. But I've had those the competition conversations a couple of times, and I think there's room. I think that they seem to be kind of everybody's fallen into their slot. There's the RenCon has it. I would never, do anything near RenCon because I respect them and what they're doing, and it's not. I would not want to. And I would hope that they would do the same. That's where it comes. That's where competition is like. I'm not gonna do that. But now, if you do something,
you're right.
The gloves are kind of off, right? Like. But it's like I try to reach out to people and find out what their dates are and what they're doing and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So.
Well, and like so many things we're talking about, it comes back to that sense of community, and we're all kind of in this together, and we want to see everybody succeed. And sometimes that can be difficult. Like like I said, we have a bunch of game stores down in Tucson, or up in Tucson for me. but I typically shop. I exclusively shop at Isle. I don't go anywhere. You're right, because there's only so much money you can spend. But
Right.
with the conventions being spread out as much as they are, for me, like I said, this year I'm gonna try to do all of them. Maybe that's unrealistic, but I want to see, the community as a whole be successful, and
Sure.
be able to go and meet people that I haven't played with before and play games I haven't played before. So, hopefully most people will kind of see it the same way, and they want to, participate. They want to see you do well. They want to have an opportunity to, go to another place and play more games, because everybody wants to play more games.
Right, but it comes to where you have to make a choice, right? So this is how I explained it to people who are, so there's Phoenix Comic Con, there's Game On, there's Arizona Game Fair, there's Crit Hit, there's Maricopa Con, there's RinCon. All right, so that's some of the bigger ones, and there's new ones popping up like weeds everywhere. But what ended up happening is you're gonna have to. This is where it comes. You're gonna have to make a choice, right? And my bet is that I want you to choose me, right? Especially for people. There are people. I have friends who will go to a lot of them, and there are people who will come play games and get them for free, right? Like I don't. That's not Jason's model. Is everybody kind of pays, right? It's a Kickstarter type of thing. But our model is that if you come and do games and do panels and do that kind of stuff, or if you come help us run it, we're gonna copy it. So there is this opportunity. Phoenix Comic Con is similar. I know stuff's changing there. Even some announcements today about some stuff. Game On, I think, is very similar. But as you talk about, like, these gaming conventions cost 30. these. She wants in on the he wants in on the conversation.
He just wants to bite me because he's a dick.
Yeah, well, I had to come to a different place because my dogs would be like, they would be definitely letting you. They would have want a word in edgewise, but you have to make a decision because each of these cost. Comic-Con costs a certain amount of money. RinCon costs money, especially for people from Phoenix who have to go down there and think about a hotel. Yeah. Arizona Game Fair. We have people coming up from Tucson, which is great, but they have to think about housing and those kind of things. And so when you start thinking about, it's like Isle of Games is a great game store. I have not been to a lot of the other game stores, and that's mostly because of my relationship with Isle of Games comes through conventions and not so much going there to shop. But I have been down there. Anyways, it's like Phoenix has a bunch of game stores, and there are people who will drive all the way across town because they like that game store better than that game store. And so you've made a decision, and that's what you get. There's lots of choice now. And if you like the small cons, if you like what Jason's doing, if you like what Jim's doing, like, there's really, Jim has great RPG. Crit Hit is doing the RPG stuff really well. And you can, they're doing more board games and that kind of stuff. But like, sometimes you have to make a choice. And some of the bad part is we're all asking for money at the same time, right? Because Phoenix Comic-Con badges just went up. Arizona Game Fair is up. Crit Hit's I think they're launching their Kickstarter in January. Jason with Maricopa Con has already launched his.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Shit.
yeah, it launched. I think he launched it. It has to be maybe this week. It might have been this week.
Damn. Okay, I'll make a note.
Yeah, and then there's MacroCon. Justin and Jason are working together. Justin's trying to do these mini game day things, so we'll see where that goes. Game On is really trying to do more board game stuff. I know. So it's like I said, going back to our earlier conversation, where I think it's great. Like, there's lots of choice. There's lots of things you can do, but it does. I don't think they can all. Maybe they can. I don't know. Can they all survive? And I think some of it is just what their goals are. Jason's goal is, he'll tell you this, is it's not about the money. It's not about he wants to have that con that he wants to put on that he thinks people, enjoy, and they do, and they support it. And, and that's what he's doing. And our thing, I think, is to maybe try to be a little bit more of that regional. It's a great time in Arizona, and we live in this. This is one of my other big problems. Is there's this all the great conventions are on the East Coast. I mean, PAX Unplugged, which would have been a great thing to go to, Philadelphia. Geekway is in St. Louis. Well, it's not East Coast, but I mean, it's across the
That way.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
That way. I mean, BGG's cool. It's Dallas, but it's still Dallas. I mean,
Right.
there's some LA stuff that goes on. There's Strategicon and the other two ones that they do during the holidays. As AssaultCon is kind of probably one of the bigger OrcaCon in is it OrcaCon in Seattle area? Or is it Portland, Seattle? One of those. That's starting to be kind of that regional kind of thing. I don't think that's here. That's where I see us going. But I do agree. If you can get too big and lose sight of, and then you can just have the industry change, like Phoenix Comic Con, where suddenly you have to start paying people, and how do you make money?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you definitely have to change the way that you interact with. I mean, Phoenix Comic Con had, the fallout with their community because of just changes they had to make. But I try to explain it to people as like, I'm not. I may be competitive because there's money involved. Like RinCon's the same way. RinCon, there's money involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like that RinCon cost. I mean, I've had conversations with them. RinCon cost money. You have to rent the hotel. You have to, you have to do all of this stuff. We're in the same boat. The Kickstarter one, people are there's really no risk.
Yeah.
Either funds or it doesn't. So
yeah.
Why do I care? It funds or it doesn't. And they do funds because I think they provide something that people want. But it's just dealing with that idea of like, if I get competitive, it's just because, man, there's and it's paid in advance. It's not like I've paid for the Arizona Game Fair is pretty much paid for. I mean, there's still stuff rolling in, but you pay in advance. It's not a thing where like, oh, the bill's due after you run your event.
Yeah.
Like, it don't work that way. They want the money up front. And so, it's like my competitive comes from that idea of that, like, no, I have to put something on that people are going to want to come to and pay money to come to, and to go along that way. I think Kickstarter, like this is in no way knocking Kickstarter cons. I think it's a great way for stuff to get started and to get going and to provide that community. And it helps build on that. So like I said, it's not knocking them at all. It's just it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm bringing 3 people along with me, so
Cool.
yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in and playing some games and teaching some games and just experiencing what Phoenix has to offer in the way of gaming and we know I know some people out that way, associations through Twitter and people that come down to RinCon and stuff. So I'm looking to catch up with a few people. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, if we could do and I'll explain this RinCon. If we could do what RinCon does, is like I said, from Phoenix, when I go down to RinCon, I really enjoy it because of the community. I mean, you guys have such an amazing group of people down there. If Arizona Game Fair could do half of what RinCon does in that sense, I think that's the great part of it. If you guys come up and start building those relationships with because there's some great Phoenix gamers, that are just amazing. Those connections are like I said, if I could do it half as well as RinCon does, I'm happy because I think that's some of the, it's not the games, it's the people. I know the games get in the way a lot of times. What do you play? What do you like to play? What did you get? It's like I'm buying, I'm trading this and it's like that's the stuff that's there, but it's the it's like, oh, I got to hang out with David Short. We got to play a game. It's like I enjoy when I go down to RinCon to talk to all of those guys that and the convention, the people who run it are awesome, and so it's that kind of that kind of thing. It's really cool.
And for people coming up, this is only going to be the second year, so you get in right at the ground floor and ride the wave that's going to be the AZ Game Fair moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, it's we hope. I mean, it is one of those things where you can't tell what the future is going to bring. I mean, you can only do what you. I can say that we were working on 2019. The space has to be booked that far in advance. And so we are doing one other. We have plans in April for a mega game. I'm not sure if you've heard about this. There's a mega game is kind of it's kind of a mix between a LARP and a board game. Like if a LARP and a board game hooked up, kind of maybe a Model UN also, maybe a little. All right, so imagine getting 80 to 100 of your friends together to play one game. And so what we're bringing is called Watch the Skies. Watch the Skies was a mega game. In fact, Shut Up and Sit Down did a big thing where they went to Watch the Skies. And essentially what it is it's the aliens have arrived, and you play countries and journalists, and you play this game, and it's an 8-hour game. And you take your turns. You have teams, and you take turns. And there are controllers in the game who help you with information that you're getting. And then this mega game has a giant globe. It's a metal globe that they use to put pieces on there so they can keep track of the game as it's going on. It's being run by, there's a group in California, Sacramento, called the West Coast Mega Gamers. And they are running the game, and then we're hosting it. The Arizona Game Fair is hosting it. It's going to be April 21st in the Spiel Pro warehouse. So I have a warehouse from my game part company that I share, and they've allowed me to run the event at the warehouse. So it's going to have kind of a warehousey kind of cool thing going to it. So, but we're hoping that they run these games in California and get 70, 80 plus people playing this game. So it's gonna be really, really cool. It's gonna cost $40 to play, or you can volunteer if you want to just experience it. You can volunteer and be one of the controllers, and so you are basically like a game master.
Right.
part of the game, and they each all the controllers have different roles that they play, and so that's something we're going to do. We want to do stuff like that too, where it's not really a full convention, but it's something different that's not happening in Arizona. And so Richard Newby, who's our we call him Director of Mayhem. He helps with all the coordination of all the panels and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, he went to Gen Con, and he met these people there. And so we've just been in negotiations to bring them out. They are going to be at the game fair handing out information and doing all that kind of stuff. So, and then people can register. Registration is going to open next week, but people can register at the game fair. It's going to be really cool. I mean, it's hard, somewhat a little hard to visualize, but it's kind of like, I think the RPG people will be into it. But yet it still has kind of a board game thing to it, because you take a turn and you have to be, like you have to make a decision and you have to decide something. And so it kind of has this mix of stuff. So
cool. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you'll hear more about that coming.
Okay. And we'll see them at the game fair. So
yeah, they're coming out. They're going to have a table, and they're going to be handing out flyers. And flyers will start showing up. I'll send some down to Tucson, but flyers will start showing up in the local game stores here, and we'll start promoting it as we get closer. But yeah, they're coming out to Game Fair, and the game can run 100 people, so it could be, this is the first one, obviously, that we've done here in Arizona. So our expectations are. My expectations aren't 100, but I'm hoping that it's. Yeah. I mean, Phoenix is a big city, and if we do it right, we can get a good number of people. But I think it's one of those games where it's kind of like the more kind of the bigger the feel it is, the better. So,
Right. You get a lot of interactions, people bouncing off each other.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, maybe we should wrap up then. You mentioned a couple of times spielpro.com is the company that you're running. It's pieces and parts, bits and bobs that people can come in and buy if you're, missing one of your. Is it like hey, I'm missing my Parcheesi piece, they can find a Parcheesi piece, or is it more geared towards like designers, developers, where you need like meeples and random parts and things?
It started out. I was selling games on eBay. Well, kind of. I had a bunch of stuff in my house that I wanted to get rid of, and I just started selling it on eBay. And I was like, "Well, this eBay thing's kind of fun." And so, what they suggest is, so I started doing some research, and they're like, you should focus on something. And so I looked around, and everybody was selling games. But what I started doing is I started going to Goodwills, and I started to know which were the good games, right? Like I started to know, okay, if I buy that game for $3, I can sell it for 40, or I can sell this one for 50. I started to know the value of the games that were there, and I was like this is cool. But everything I was reading was saying you want to focus on something, and it's like everybody was doing this, and plus driving around to all the Goodwills is just, I would. If I'd have this path, like I was going to work, I would just stop at all the Goodwills, and I'd do it on a different one on the way home. And I started doing this stuff, and there were parts in the games, and I started selling those. And I started, well, maybe I could just buy some of these, and so I started finding, company or manufacturers, and so I started doing it. When I originally decided to do it, it was for game designers. I mean, it was like there was print and play, and then there was oh man, I'm blanking on the Game Crafter, the big one, Game Crafter.
Right.
But mostly what they did was they focused on the printing of your game, like the cards and the making the game, and the parts were kind of, and we have some parts.
Right.
And so I just started importing. I was doing this in my house, and it just started, it took up a room. And then it took up 2 rooms. And then, it just I got better and better at it, and I started bringing in more stuff. And so I moved this year, the end of the year, into a warehouse. I lease a space out of, it's called Max 6. It's this big warehouse, and I lease a space out of it. And so it's just growing. But our customers are game designers, dice people. We have we're starting to get a bigger selection of dice, accessories, like I have sleeves and stuff like that. But I also teachers, because a lot of teachers use like spinners and sand timers and all these kind of things in what they do. And I've been working more with that. So that's some of it. And then some of it's publishers. So there are small publishers who they're not getting their game manufactured in China, or like there are some small print companies in California, and they're getting a game made, and so they need some stands or parts for that, and so they'll buy anywhere from 1,000 to 20,000. I mean, I had somebody like 20,000 little game stands that they needed for a game they were making here in the U.S. And
wow.
So some of it is just straight e-commerce, right? Like the website spielpro.com is, you just go on there and you can just, you can buy one, or you can buy as many as we have, which people have done. You get that email in the middle of the night, you're like, out of stock. Shit. Like, somebody just bought all of that. I have a part, I don't remember what it was, but I had a part that was like nobody had bought any of them, and I had it for quite a while, and I had quite a few of them, and suddenly somebody just one day bought and then you have to say, well, do I buy more?
Right.
Because it was just one customer that bought them all, but maybe maybe there'll be another one. But anyways, so that's the kind of business it is. But we are starting to do retail. I'm starting to work with game stores and provide package parts, and we're on Amazon. We sell package parts on Amazon.
Cool.
So it's like it's package parts for retailers and stuff, and then bulk parts for just anybody who wants to go on there and buy them. But the customers are all over the place. Like I said, I originally thought it was going to be game designers, but it's kind of a bunch of different.
Okay. Can you buy Dyson sets like a set of a Dungeons and Dragons set from
We're
D20?
starting, yeah. So after the first of the year, we're going to start adding like all the Chessex and all that. I have some on there, and then we're importing some of that. I for the first time this year, I was at Phoenix Comic Con. I had a booth at Phoenix Comic Con, and so we're going to do that again, but it's going to be more dice. And so look for first part of the year to start seeing more of that on there. Mostly because we'll start ramping up for Comic Con so that I have stock for that because that was just dice. People wanted dice.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to SaltCon. We'll be at SaltCon, which is March, I think 1st. Don't quote me on the dates, but I think it's March, the first part of March. And then I haven't decided. I've been thinking about Gen Con or some of those. But our convention stuff is a little bit more dice, but we still do bring all the, we bring wood cubes and, but yeah, this year's pretty going to be just growing into more inventory. Now that we have the space at the warehouse, is bringing in more parts and more D&D dice and, some of the stuff that people, there's all the Chessex and the, there's all kinds of like Q Workshop and, all the cool dice. There's definitely some expansion as far as, and I think that's just because I just want to be all kinds of bits, not just, like I said, I think the Game Crafter and some of those are really focusing on the game designer. And we just kind of want to be like, it's game parts and accessories and dice and that kind of stuff.
Right. But you can never go wrong with dice. You're always going to sell those.
Yeah. And there's a dice trading, or not, they're just like a club on Facebook. And I got to meet some of the guys in Germany, and it was just really cool. We traded dice and it was fun. But yeah, there's these huge dice, like Q Workshop has a huge booth in Germany. And it was just amazing to just look at all the dice that they have. Gen Con has some of that. I have not been to Gen Con, but I've seen pictures of, like the Chessex and the, Kaplow does a bunch of Koplow or however I can never pronounce. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
But, and then there's all the new Kickstarter dice. There's all kinds of metal dice. Just so many metal dice out there that are just so cool. But yeah, I'm into the dice now too. So, but yeah, it's just bits and parts, and they come from all over. Some from China, some from the UK, some from Germany, some from Poland, some from the US. The US cribbage pegs are made in. There's a good chunk of wood bits that are made in the US, not the Euro, like not meeples and that kind of stuff. Meeples and that tended, were mostly from Germany, but now China. I mean, China just has knocked it all off. I mean,
yeah, they'll do everything cheaper.
But yeah, spielpro.com.
Cool. And I have to admit that I forgot to put that link in the show notes before we started, so I will do that as soon as we wrap up.
Yeah, it's been weird because that's SpielPro is my. I tell people I make money at SpielPro and I lose it at Arizona Game Fair.
Here you go.
That's going to be my new tagline. Is I make money at SpielPro and then I lose money at Arizona Game Fair. But yeah, it's kind of a dual thing right now. SpielPro's kind of the timing was kind of good because SpielPro's kind of wrapping up because of the holiday. The holiday shopping's done, but then Game Fair is just going to ramp up like crazy.
Right.
And then I'll get a little bit of a break and then head into con season. And then some of the events and stuff that we're doing. So.
Well, let me ask you this before we go. Are you going to have a booth at Arizona Game Fair for SpielPro?
No, yeah, so I was. The first one I was, which, yeah, I tried to figure it out because the first one I was, and then I said, no, I can't. There's just no way. And then I was like, okay, well, this year I can probably just hire some people right, and just run the booth. And then I was like, no, because I'm the kind of person who would want to be like over there making, seeing what was going on, making sure things were running right. And I can only focus on that one thing at a time. And so, no, Spiel Pro is like a sponsor. I mean, much of the money to get things rolling and all that, came out of the Spiel Pro. So I would say Spiel Pro is the biggest sponsor of Game Fair. Some of that's changing. It's going to take some while. This is my big thing is to try to bring the industry to Arizona,
right?
Because I just don't think we do enough of that. And so I'm hoping to get down the line get more of those sponsors. But some of that just comes with reaching a certain size and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, Spiel Pro is a big sponsor, but no booth. I do think about it, but yeah, it's like, nah, it's not gonna work. So
right. That's fair. That's fair. I just thought it was an interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. This was awesome. I'm glad that we got a chance to hang out and chat. I'm excited to come up to Arizona Game Fair in February. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So I'm glad we could help promote in our small way to get some people to come up there and have a good time at the con.
Yeah, and I just want to tell all your viewers, like, we're very open. Like, if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you think we're doing it all wrong, like, just reach out, because I learn more from talking to people than I do from not. And so it's info@arizonagamefare.com. Just shoot me a message, and I mean, even if you want to tell me I'm a jerk, it's fine. But yeah, we want to hear from people. If there's people who want to do miniatures, if there's people who think that they have something that would fit in, just reach out. We try to get back to people as soon as we can. So
awesome, that's great. Don't email him and tell him he's a jerk. Just don't do that.
It's fine. I'm used to it.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for checking this out. We hope we see you up at the AZ Game Fair. If you like what you see, hit the link, hit the like and the subscribe on the YouTube. There's links in the show notes for all this stuff. Follow us on SoundCloud. We're on Twitter, Facebook. We're all over the place. So if you like it, please click all the things. That would be awesome. If you love coffee, go to the website, click on the link for our legendary brew. You can get our coffee from Birds of a Feather Coffee Company. It's awesome. I just ordered 2 more bags today because I'm almost out and it's almost Christmas and I don't want to run out, because then what the hell am I going to do? Drink Folgers? That's not an option. So check that out as well, and we'll catch you all next time.